Hey, Sidel here. I finally want to show you the first full side of this accordion journal that I've turned into a Celtic accordion journal. So the first side was completely, I had this idea to have this continuous line that I would follow and make a knot, connecting knots along that continuous line that would extend from page to page. So let me show you what each page looks like. And I'm going to use the railing here to lay it all out for you. So hang on just a second. So here is the journal, and you can see just how small it is in my hand. And I'm going to open it up. When I open it up, I just see the very first page. And this is why it's called an accordion journal. The pages fold like an accordion. So again, I talked about how I basically set out a line and I created a line in pencil. And then when I stopped on one side, I would extend the line along here. And then my idea was that each page would be different. I wanted every other page to have either some kind of a quote. I wanted them to have different colors. I wanted them to have different knots. So, and there are people who say that there are names for some of these knots. From what I have read, that's not really so much, it's not really true. Names have been given to knots, I think more in maybe the last century. Certainly not all of these knots have been named. But this knot right here is probably one of my favorites. So I wanted to start with that. And the idea was to put a quote or a prayer or something that I really loved. So this morphed into this knot and this page, which is actually the Serenity Prayer in Irish. And that leads on to this page, which then led. And again, I was trying to follow or come up with what I call border knots, knots that you could use for borders. So let's extend this some more. This is going to get trickier to do the longer it gets, especially one-handed. So forgive my fumbling here for a minute. I'm going to try to do it this way. And again, every other page had some kind of a prayer or some kind of a quote with them all connecting. Now this particular one, I kind of went crazy and I went in two different directions and then joined them back up at the end. And every so often I would get, well, actually it hasn't really happened yet, but I would get in a mood to start doing something different that wasn't really so much of a border. This is another one where I started with one entrance and then kind of split it off into two directions. And here I went from something complex to that went from two strands back down to one, and then continued along. So this was probably the first one where it wasn't quite a border, but well, this one particular section here could be used as a border, but I just started, well, actually, this is a great example of what happens when you make a mistake and then you want to kind of play with it. And I can't even remember what I did, but I just started to improvise. And I ended up with this very strange looking pattern, which has turned out to be one of my favorites as well in this book. I'll probably talk about that in a class that I do at some point. So, of course, I had to work a labyrinth in. Here's another kind of abstract sort of, it wasn't just one border that I was working on. Same thing with this. I wanted to incorporate this journal. Originally had lots of circles that I was originally doing Zentangle into. And I'm about to run out of room here on the railing. I can see this, but we'll keep going. Again, I was trying to change up the colors every time. Let's see. So I've got two orange next to each other. I really like it. Sometimes I liked having a page spread that kind of worked well together. So I did that here, and I did that here with the blues and the greens as well. And now this one is an example of a class that I'm actually going to be teaching next week. I'm starting up a whole series of mini tutorial classes. They're going to be an hour long, and they're going to be offered live on Zoom with an option to get the recording as well. And this is a way of playing with Celtic knots if you're feeling like really unsure. That I call them line art knots. There's probably another name for them, but this is just, it's kind of almost a cartoony way of creating knots, and it's a whole lot of fun, and you can learn a lot about knot making by playing with this method. And yes, and here's my last one. Let's see if I can actually get this to stretch out. So that's the final page, which I have not yet posted on Instagram as of today, October 23rd, but it's coming soon. So I'm just going to go back so you can see the full length. I believe I started this project back in January. And this is probably a good 12 feet long, at least. I hope you enjoy, and I invite you to check out my page that I will link under this video, where I'll be offering some of these mini classes. Okay, bye.